Hey everyone, this video is about the two types of trust that you are building in a life insurance telesales conversation. Now, this is something that we teach and we train on in our call centers, and it's become foundational because everything that we do, from what we say, right, our presentation to how we say it to everything in between, is all to build these two types of trust. And this is something where I want agents to recognize if they are, well, number one, I want them to recognize if they can differentiate between these two types of trust. Most agents are not. And I think in order to build more trust in your presentations, if you can put them in these two buckets of trust per se, you're going to have a much easier time building trust on your calls. Because when you say, hey, build trust on a call, build rapport, it's just like this overall generic thing, right? Okay, build more trust. I got to get to know the person better. I got to connect with them better, right? But if you can separate them in these two buckets, figure out which one you're good at and which one you're not good at, and work on that weakness, right? The one that you're not good at, bring that one up. You'll start to build more trust. Okay, instead of having this whole thing like, everybody's going to tell you, you got to build more trust, you got to build more rapport, you got to connect more, right? But if you can put it in one of these two types of buckets and just focus on these areas and keep lifting them up, this is how you can become better at building trust. So let's talk about the two different types of trust that we train on in our call centers. And it's been very, very impactful, okay? So the first type of trust is a cognitive trust, okay? It's that logical trust. That is where you are getting your prospect to believe that you are uniquely competent in handling their needs. They see you as an expert, right? They view you and your agency as somebody they want to do business with because you know your stuff. You're going to put them in the best position possible, okay? And that's done through a lot of different ways, right? But at the foundation, it's just this cognitive, logical trust, okay? So it could be done through education, right? The education part of your script, whether it's talking to them about final expense life insurance, what it is, the difference between that and term, the actual company that you're going to be recommending, things like that, okay? It's not just that educational piece of your script, it's how you deliver it though. And that goes for your whole presentation, how you say what you say, your tonality, okay? That has a lot to do with it as well. Because if you are using kind of a curious tone the whole way, right? We teach on you need to have that kind of like a high inflection point, kind of a curious tone when you're asking probing questions, when you're connecting. That's great. Do that. Beginning of a call should all be kind of that inflection of a curious tone, because that's welcoming in connection when you do that. And that's what you need to do at the very beginning of a call, right? But as the call progresses, after you build that connection, you've built a bunch of trust, they've shared a lot with you, then you got to drop your voice down, right? And that's where you build that cognitive trust. That's when you're going through your health questions, right? You don't want to ask these health questions with like a curious tone, right? You don't want to go through your education with a curious tone. You're going to sound like you don't know what you're talking about. You want to kind of, you have to build that cognitive trust. And I find a lot of agents, they carry that curious, kind of friendly, over-friendly tone throughout their conversation. And there's a place for it when you're asking probing questions and at the very beginning of a conversation, but not once you get through those sections, okay? You have to bring it down and build that cognitive trust, all right? And so you also can do it through, like that was tonality, you can also do it through call control. If you're letting conversations get off track for 5 minutes plus, talking about, they want to talk all about their grandchildren or whatever it is, politics, you've been friend zoned, okay? And it's really tough to get out of the friend zone there because they're talking back and forth with you. It's going to be so easy for them to tell you, I need to think about it, because they see you as a friend, all right? And that is not building cognitive trust there. You have to have that call control to bring it back and be the expert. You're bringing them through this process that's going to get them what they want, okay? So you have the tonality, you have the call control, you have the education, and you just have being prepared. knowing your script, memorizing your script. And when I say being prepared, that comes off, because if you are saying your ums, uhs, your awkward pauses, you're shuffling through to find, some information, and you say, okay, hold on a second. Okay, I got it here, right? That is being unprepared, and that doesn't give anybody confidence in you, okay? So you have to be prepared, and, you can't sound nervous. You have to have this confidence in your voice. That's how you build cognitive trust, okay? But on the flip side, the second type of trust is your affective trust, okay? Affective trust. And this is the emotional trust, right? This is where you show them that you care about them, that you're authentic, that you're demonstrating to them that you have good and honorable intentions on this phone call, okay? And you do that through, at the very beginning, right? And you do that through probing, asking more deeper questions, because that lets them know you care. You're not just asking the question for the sake of asking the question. And, you're going deeper about their situation. You're going deeper about why they want this coverage. You're going deeper what would happen to their beneficiaries if something were to, God forbid, happen to them. And you're asking those questions. You're getting them in that mindset, okay? You're building up that emotional side, and that emotional side is what's going to be the most effective thing, right? This affective trust, the most effective thing to push them off the fence in making a decision. Okay, they've gone their entire lives. If you're selling final expense life insurance, for the most part, they've gone their entire lives without coverage. They're just now starting to think about this. That's why they're on the phone with you, but they haven't made a decision their entire lives, and they're certainly not going to make one with you if you can't push them off the edge there and get them to really think about these things. Introduce them to these pain points that they didn't know that they had, to get them to realize what's going to happen and talk through that. Is this like what they really want for their family when they're gone? Okay. Having that effective trust, right? That building up that emotional trust is really the thing that ties everything together. Okay. Anybody can go and read a script, go through a presentation. Okay. It's how you perform that presentation, how much you actually care, and how you can demonstrate that care to your prospects. That's how you build that effective trust. And that's why we call it effective trust. Because you can have that cognitive trust, that logical, you're the expert, you're telling them everything they need to know, they're getting all the information, you sound confident, you know your stuff. But if you can't get that emotional side and get that effective trust into the conversation and built up, you're going to have less action takers, right? So you got to have both of those and build both of those up. And so really ask yourself, what bucket do you put yourself in? Like your biggest strength, is it a cognitive trust or is it an effective trust, right? Cognitive, logical, like is that you? Okay. Can you work on your emotional trust? Do you even want to work on your emotional trust, right? That's a big thing that we have to train on, that this is an emotional sale. These people are, we're selling an intangible product that they're never going to see the benefits of. They're going to die. And then that's going to pay their family, right? This needs to be an emotional sale. You need to have that in the conversation, okay? So work on your biggest weakness here when it comes to trust, and realize that trust isn't this overarching sort of generic thing that you need to build up. There's two types, okay? You have the cognitive trust and you have the effective trust. And if you can build those up, and really just be self-aware of the two different types of trust, and look back on your conversations, listen to your calls, and see if you're built, what your biggest weakness is in that. If you can build up whatever it is for you, some people are good at cognitive trust and not effective trust. If you can build up that effective trust, you're going to see way more impactful conversations, right? If you're building more effective trust, like you're good at the connecting side, but you are not so sure on the cognitive side, right? You become people's friends, you have these long conversations, you are, your tonality is more, of a friend other than as an expert, right? You have to recognize that. You need to know when to switch your tone in your script, right? You need to emphasize those power statements in your script as well. Your voice is an instrument here, okay? And to do that, it really helps with building that cognitive and that effective trust. So all that to say is really the point of this video is to make you aware of the two different types of trust so that it can be easier for you to build trust in your conversations and figure out which one's the weakest for you to build that one up. Everyone can get better at each of them, right? Work on your biggest weakness. That's how you get better in this business, all right? So cognitive trust, effective trust. Work on both of those and you'll have way more effective conversations and be able to help lots more people with life insurance.